The reason that they're blaming Donald Trump is because Donald Trump and his FCC, so Brendan Carr, have been coming after networks where they don't like the coverage that they're getting. They did this with Jimmy Kimmel, and there were Republicans who had to come out and defend Jimmy Kimmel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Grab a seat and get comfortable, because this one got spicy fast. So picture this. A Fox panel gathers to do a full victory lap over a beloved late-night host getting his show pulled, everyone gloating about ratings and money like the case is closed. Then one lone voice on that panel, Jessica, refuses to play along. She pulls out the FCC pressure, the Jimmy Kimmel parallel, a $16 million settlement, and even quotes a Republican senator pushing back on First Amendment grounds. And suddenly the whole "it's just business" story starts to wobble. Trust me, you are going to want to stick around for the back half, because that is exactly where the room gets uncomfortable and the real argument finally breaks open. Before we get into it, I'm genuinely curious. Drop a comment and let me know which city or country you're tuning in from today. I love seeing how far this little community reaches. Alright, enough setup. Let's roll the clip and break it down piece by piece.
You're the first guy in America who's lost his show because we got a president who can't take a joke.
What number were you thinking of?
Okay. Yeah?
Because I thought it would have been 2.5 million or 2.5 million. That's the number of Epstein files Trump still hasn't released.
But even Colbert's woke Hollywood pals didn't take it as hard as his biggest fans, the liberal media, who fawned over their late-night martyr.
It's a sad night to see Stephen sign off, to see a president who can't take a joke go after anyone who can make one.
For those who say, oh, he was too political, too partisan, always worry when they come for the comedians.
It breaks my heart. This is his last show.
Part of the authoritarian ethos is that God shall not be mocked. And they often go after comedians. They often go after people who mock them. And that is what Trump has done.
The Late Show was about so much more than politics. Just make the world a little bit less bleak. That's what we're losing in this country.
And the official Democrat X account is in mourning with one less place to push its liberal messaging. Tyrus, nowhere in there was the self-analysis of, well, maybe the jokes aren't funny. Maybe we're losing all these millions of dollars, so the audience is speaking for us. Maybe it's a business decision.
Yeah, if Colbert tells a joke on CBS, does anyone hear it? No. The show was terrible, and he had horrible ratings. He lost $40 million a year and had the greatest firing ever. Fox, if you ever decide to fire me and say, Tyrus, in 1 year, you're out of here. That is he had so much time. And then he gets severance after that. But they can't celebrate anything. And the reason why the media was having such a meltdown is because no one else is going to have him on their show that much. No one is going to stay up late to see Stelter talk. Like, his show was repugnant. He was repugnant. You go and the whole thing, the president can't take a joke. He just sat up there for an hour making fun of himself. Like, he makes jokes of himself all the time. We make fun of him on a nightly basis on the Gutfeld show. People, it's not blame the people, blame the American people who didn't want to watch you anymore. It's the people's fault. So are you saying that people are in step with the president?
Yeah. And so, all right, Paul, one of the criticism that they're levying. So you can't make jokes, but the issue is, of course he can make jokes. It's not if they weren't funny and they weren't selling and audiences weren't watching, then really, instead of saying they're coming after the comedians, isn't it that's the business decision of an entertainer who is failing to entertain?
This is the part everybody is glossing over, and it drives me up the wall. When De Niro stood there and said it, that the host was the first guy in America to lose his show because we have a president who cannot take a joke, the whole panel laughed it off like it was sour grapes. But think about what that sentence actually means. You have to understand something about how comedy works in a free country. The comedian is supposed to be the one person in the room who can point at power and laugh. The moment that becomes risky, the moment people start losing platforms for it, that is not a punchline anymore. That is a warning sign. And here is what people don't realize. One of the media voices said it perfectly, that you should always worry when they come for the comedians. The panel treated that like melodrama. I don't, because history actually backs it up. Back in 1969, CBS, the same network, pulled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Why? Because two brothers kept making jokes about the war and kept poking the people in charge. The official story was scheduling and content. The real story, documented for decades now, was political pressure. So when someone says comedians are the canary in the coal mine, that is not a hot take, that is a pattern. Then you get the line about the authoritarian ethos, that God shall not be mocked, and that powerful people go after the ones who mock them. That landed for me, because the response from the other side was not a counter-argument. It was gloating. One panelist actually celebrated, saying he lost $40 million a year and had the greatest firing ever. And I am sitting here thinking, you are so busy doing a victory lap that you skipped right over the actual question. Nobody is denying the money matters. What they are denying is that money is the whole story. And that is exactly the move you make when you don't want to look at the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? And that's really what obtains here. He could be joking about Donald Trump from now until doomsday. If he wasn't losing $40 million a year, that's almost Greg's salary. I mean, God help us. He's got something like 60 writers. Greg has what? Me, you, and and the Joes, right? I mean, that's it. And yet, that crew, Joe, DeVito, Mackey, they blow that show away in terms of their numbers.
You got 100 writers.
It was numbers. That's really all it really was. But I got to tell you, in terms of blowing it, what a missed opportunity. Colbert could have been. He's in that seat that could have made him sort of the Johnny Carson of his generation. And instead, he took it into a place that nobody wants to hear before they go in bed. Most of America is going to bed at that point, and they want to be put to bed in a way that there's some humor, okay, but the world's okay, America is okay, we're not the worst people in the world. And instead, he turned it into a very poisoned and poisonous hour. It's an hour, right, the show? And you can see how much I watched it.
A little bit more.
And so, as a result, people just turned off to it. And $40 million, man, you better be awfully funny if you're going to justify $40 million. And not for nothing. It isn't Colbert, it's Colbert. All right, hello, we're not in Paris. Get out. I mean, that's the original sin in this whole thing. But realistically, at the bottom line here, the end of the day, it is a business. He didn't deliver for that business, and that's all it is. And unfortunately, Springsteen and De Niro just can't face that.
Jessica, I might know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Why is Colbert and his legion of fans, why are they continuing to blame POTUS for this instead of blaming Colbert for destroying a 30-year legacy?
Colbert.
The reason that they're blaming Donald Trump is because Donald Trump and his FCC, so Brendan Carr, have been coming after networks where they don't like the coverage that they're getting. They did this with Jimmy Kimmel, and there were Republicans who had to come out and defend Jimmy Kimmel. Like, it's not fun for Ted Cruz to have to dedicate time on his podcast to saying, guys, this isn't how the First Amendment works. And one day the shoe will be on the other foot, hoping very soon on that. And you don't want the left coming after the right in this way. CBS paid a settlement of $16 million for, quote unquote, selectively editing, which was a normal protocol in how they do their episodes over 60 minutes. So they kowtow to the administration. And when you kowtow to this administration that they just take more.
Now watch how the question gets framed, because this is where the whole thing tips its hand. The anchor leans in and basically asks Jessica why the host and his fans keep blaming the president instead of blaming the host himself for destroying a 30-year legacy. It sounds reasonable on the surface, but it is a trap. It is built to make you pick between two boxes, money or politics, when the honest answer is that both can be true at the same time. And Jessica does not take the bait, which I respected. She points out that the administration and its FCC chair, Brendan Carr, had been leaning on networks over coverage they did not like. This is the part that blows my mind, because she then brings up Jimmy Kimmel and how even Republicans had to step in to defend him. Let me sit on that for a second. When members of the same party that controls the government are publicly uneasy about what is happening to broadcasters, that tells you the temperature in the room is not normal. Then she plays the strongest card of all. She says Ted Cruz, of all people, had to go on his own podcast and explain that this is not how the First Amendment works. That is the moment. Because you cannot wave this away as liberal whining when a senator from the other side is the one raising the alarm. And here is what people miss. She caps it by noting CBS paid a $16 million settlement over so-called selective editing, and then says the part that really matters, that when a network bends once, the pressure does not stop. It grows. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is just how leverage works. Once they learn you will fold, they keep coming back for more.
Colbert being fired comes as new leadership at CBS has caused a rupture in viewership. I mean, they are bleeding viewers now. You have Letterman showing up. He was there in the final weeks talking about the destruction of that network and what it has turned into, and that it's a proxy for what the administration wants. Yes, there's a money element. Absolutely. You can't lose $40 million. But when you look at someone like Anderson Cooper, who signed off for 60 Minutes, he was there 20 years, tearful about it, that he was leaving this job, that you get the impression was, of all of his amazing jobs, maybe his most favorite, except for New Year's Eve. You know that something is rotten within CBS, and that journalists who work there feel that they, under the Ellisons and Barry Weiss, are doing favors for the administration. They are pushing people aside to make sure mergers can go through and that they can advance their point of view over the point of view of the talent that they have or the good work that was done, like on that CCOT story. Like, Bill Owens doesn't quit unless something is really bad with what's going on there. So Colbert's show getting canceled is contextualized amidst all of that. And that's why people are saying that this is related to Donald Trump.
Rosanna, do you think, however, that to kowtow, it would be if, for example, they were making a profit? And to kowtow would mean, for example, if everyone was enjoying themselves and audiences were loving it. But the reality was that all of those shows were bleeding viewers, bleeding ratings, and everyone there was using it as a therapy session against the president, which audiences didn't respond to. So when we talk about the talent there, I think, frankly, Americans didn't see it as talent. They saw it as disrupting a lunch therapy group, and they were done with it. They were sick of it. So perhaps the new dawn that's occurring there is a welcome breath of fresh air for Americans that want to see the truth, not just TDS.
And this is the part that should genuinely bother everyone, no matter which side you sit on. Jessica points out that people inside CBS feel something is rotten, that under Barry Weiss, the network is doing favors for the administration, pushing their own talent aside so mergers can sail through. Stop and really hear that. We are not talking about ratings anymore. We are talking about journalists, the people whose entire job is to tell you the truth, feeling like the building they work in has quietly switched sides. And then she says the line that sealed it for me. She points out that Bill Owens does not walk away unless something is seriously wrong behind the scenes. You have to understand why that matters. When a veteran producer with decades of credibility resigns on principle, that is not workplace drama. That is a smoke alarm going off. People do not torch their own careers over nothing. So when Rosanna jumps in and tries to shrink all of this down, calling the show a therapy session against the president that audiences rejected, I am sorry, but that is a dodge. A clever one, I will give her that. She takes a real concern about press freedom and repackages it as a ratings tantrum, because if it is just about ratings, then nobody has to feel uncomfortable about anything. That is the whole trick. Here is what I keep coming back to. You can think a show is unfunny. You can think a host got too preachy. You are allowed to feel that, and honestly, a lot of people did. But none of that is the issue on the table. The issue is whether the people in power get to lean on the companies that decide who stays on the air. Because the day that becomes normal, it does not stop with the comedians you happen to dislike. It comes back around every single time for the voices you love too. And by then, it is a whole lot harder to fight back. That is why this matters, not because of one host. Because of the precedent it sets for everybody else. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.